Hey Matt, this is Samantha, bright and early in the morning. We are revisiting your website in order to discuss structure. And I touched on this a little bit in the first video regarding your site map, which was essentially us going through how you use your site, what's structured on your site, what SEO looks like, so that we could determine what exactly your design needs are moving forward into the future. So this video, I'd like to take a little bit of time to explain what exactly this process is. Then there's going to be a lot of time lapsing going on as you watch me create the site. You can see I've done a little bit already in order to provide some examples. A site web is essentially a mind map, a thought bubble, an exercise chart essentially that tries to take the ways that you use your site, that site map bullet list that I created in the last video, and place it onto a document where you can follow the actions that you hope your customer takes. So coming from an ecosystem, basically Facebook, Twitter, Google, wherever your customer first notices PeaceFrog, your awareness stage, and they come to your site, what specific set of actions do you want them to take before they get to your free quote page? This is what we're looking at. You have your home page here. You have your free quote page, which is really going to be going all over the site, but it's a separate entity right now. And then we have why we do it, your charity options, what we do, your services and what exactly you're doing, and proof that you can do it well. So these are basically your testimonials. There's also who we are. There's a contact, there's a location set. Maps are going to be a huge deal for you because you're a local business. And the job of this site web is to get all of that content into as few pages as possible, because the fewer the pages, the easier it is for people to read. So how are we going to do that? We are going to calculate something called bounces. Bounces are defined in marketing as the movement from one page that your customer has to the next. You can bounce into the funnel, you can bounce back in steps through that funnel, and you can bounce out of the funnel. Clearly, we don't want them bouncing out of the funnel, but if they do, we want to be able to plan for them to go somewhere in our greater ecosystem, these pink post-it notes that I'll explain in a little bit. So the way that we're calculating bounces is using a series of different markers. We're going to use purple for good positive bounces. So if they click your home page and they want to go to the free quote page, we have a purple bounce. We want as many purple arrows here as possible. Now, if they're not ready to move forward with that quote, you might want them to like a page on Facebook, give you their email address for your newsletter, keep up with your blogs, etc. So we're going to calculate that with this orange marker. So this is called an external bounce, bouncing to somewhere in our greater ecosystem. Now there's also retargeting and going backwards in the funnel, which we also want to calculate, and we're going to calculate that with this pink marker. If someone isn't quite ready and they cart abandoned, for instance, an ad might pop up that says, not quite ready to make that decision, here's a coupon that you can redeem within the next 48 hours. This is going to be how we determine how they backstep through the funnel. Now with the funnels specifically, there are different tactics and strategies that you can use to move people through a process. A 5-step funnel from your homepage to your free quote page, you want to make sure that you have different tactics that are all intended to move that customer in the easiest possible way. So the way that we do that is by looking at the goals that we have at any one given time. And the number one goal that you're going to have for your business is getting a quote, getting them to call in or getting them to file a form. So we're going to calculate that using these yellow post-it notes. These yellow post-it notes are essentially going to go onto different home pages to determine the tactics that we use to achieve this goal. Now there's also another goal that we want to calculate as well, and that's establishing a relationship. Just asking someone, hey, can I clean your carpets immediately isn't going to work because they have a lot of apprehension. They have a lot of hurdles. So lowering those hurdles is important. How are you establishing that relationship? And we'll use these green post-its in order to do that. And then kind of tangential to the green post-its, you have a tertiary goal that we're going to focus on a little bit less, and that's getting the information necessary to retarget them. So if they bounce out of the funnel, if they cart abandon, if they do something that results in you not getting the conversion, you want to keep a conversation going with them. So we're going to use retargeting methods with the blue, determining what services they're going to click on, determines what they're interested in. Are they pet owners? Then they might want one service over another. So what I'm going to do is, just like what you see here with the pink post-it notes, I'm going to plot all of those different aspects out here. I'm going to time lapse a lot. Anytime I do need to talk, I'm going to try to walk you through this. I'll just remove the time lapse, make my statement, and then we'll move on from there. Hopefully this will go pretty quick. All right, so your site is actually relatively simple. So there are going to be 5 main sections to your site. All of them are going to involve a free quote form that's going to be embedded. And for the most part, here's the plan. Whenever someone comes to your site, you're always first and foremost going to have an ever-present free quote button. So it's always going to start here. Other than that, as they're going down the site, you want them to ask a chief few questions that are all going to be relatively answered through your reviews, your testimonials, and your basis. Then you're going to use lead magnets and small coupon triggers in order to make it a little bit easier for them to say, all right, let's just do this. But there's also going to be some aspects where you're going to want to create a little bit of a following. You can use the peace aspect of your brand, and you can also use the charity aspects of your brand to make following feel more organic. What we are going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and take a quick pan, and I'm going to explain what you're seeing as we're moving forward from here. And then we're going to move forward to actually structuring the pages so that they match all of the goals and the strategies that we use on each page. And that will give us our structure. From the structure, we can start building the copy, making the design look really nice, and it will go from there. This is starting with the key. So we have the ecosystem. Goal number 1, getting your quote. Goal number 2, establishing a relationship. And then goal number 3 is getting the info for retargeting on Advance. We also have the arrows themselves. So internal bounce, once again, is defined as bouncing from one page to the next, hopefully within the filter. The external bounce is bouncing from your website to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, etc. We also have retargeting going backward. So if someone's not quite ready, do you have an exit plan in mind that will move them to another page instead of just abandoning that system? And then there's the community aspect of it all as well. We're going to start over here at the home page where it's just very simple. It's going to involve each of the other pages as standard. So we have a free quote pop up, possibly in the form of a bot. We have some customer reviews that are immediately accessible and will direct back to your proof. We'll get there in a little bit. Then there's a newsletter or other link kind of form. This could also be social media or something along those lines. And then we have in the news, which essentially allows them to keep up to date on what you're doing. So that's pretty simple, pretty easy. It does direct toward a free quote, it directs towards your proof, and it also directs toward your location / what we are, but it's just on that page. So you're gonna have quite a few arrows coming from here, even if it doesn't look like much. Kind of moving on to the next section, we have your proof, and we have a lot of ecosystem here. We have Monster Business, Yelp, Sotellus, Google for Business, Angie's List, etc. This isn't an exhaustive list, but just a few examples. We are going to have a few convinced buttons, one at the top, one in the middle, and then one at the bottom, that all target back to your free quote page. So that's why there's a lot of arrows going on here, go in that direction. So we are also going to have an area that talks almost directly to charity, and then something that says, prior customer, leave us a review, something like a community management aspect. So next we have the contact and information. Honestly, I think that this can just go on the home page, but I made it a separate page just in case. So we have follow / like, we have Google Maps, just like the traditional stuff. And then we also have returning customer, which goes over to your review section, and everything else on this just goes straight towards your free quote page. Finally, we have your how-tos, tips, and tricks. This is the long-term plan. So the vast majority of the arrows here are coming back to the how-to, back to the blog page. This is basically just how you're going to keep people hooked after they've engaged in your services, in addition to if they're not sure about your services. This is where the merit comes into play. And then you have your entire ecosystem of potential bloggers, you have your ecosystem of merit-based stuff, charity websites, etc. You have your partner organizations, your YouTube channel and LinkedIn, etc. So pretty simple map, pretty easy, determines, I would say, about 3 or 4 funnels currently on your site that should all be interacting. And I hope that this was helpful. We're going to go ahead and move to the next section. I'm not going to make this a third video or anything like that. And then we'll see the plan come to fruition on an actual design.